Hey buddies, I want to go ahead and say thank you so much for clicking on this video and giving it a shot and spending some time with me and my guest today. I want to firstly go ahead and say Merry Christmas to all of you guys. And if you are of another religion, Happy Holidays. So in this episode, I speak with Pablo Crone. He is the owner of Crone Customs. They put in pools. They actually do a really good job. I'll go ahead and put their link down in the description below. They make some pretty cool pools. I was impressed when I saw them. I've known Pablo since about 2016, and I met him in a Bible study group at a church I used to go to. This episode really kind of got me by surprise because I was expecting to talk about pools and then, what makes a good pool business? How come it's so successful? We talk about relationships. I know that I discussed a little bit about my divorce and what I went through, and he also discusses what went through his as well. We also discussed a topic that was very, very close to him, which was his daughter. And she passed away a few years back, and he talks about that experience and what it was like for him. And the way he explains it, I really felt like I was there. And it's something that I never can imagine what that feels like. And I think Pablo does a really good job explaining it, what it felt like to him, and also the strain that it put on the relationship with his wife at the time. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode. It's definitely a very real episode for me. And please let me know what you think down in the comments section down below. If you're listening on anything else that does not have comments, go ahead and just follow me on Instagram or even on Facebook, but I prefer Instagram. And just leave a comment or just send me a message and tell me what you think. I want some feedback. I need some criticisms, what I can do better and what I've been, doing decent on. That way I can improve and get some more people on here. So thank you again so much just for even giving me the time. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode. I've had to learn as I go ever since I started this. And it took me, I think it was about 5 months total from like the idea of I'm going to start a podcast to actually producing my first podcast, because there was so much stuff that went into it.
Have you ever thought about going into the YouTube inside of things?
Yeah.
Vlogging?
That's exactly. Oh, so I've done vlogging only in the aspect of after my divorce. I started vlogging about my feelings and stuff, which sounds pretty gay.
No,
but it was something that I really needed to do.
It's good therapy.
And it was really good therapy because I was seeing a therapist, a clinical psychologist, or he was a psychologist or psychiatrist. Is that the same? It might be the same thing. I was seeing him and I'd got nothing out of it. And I was paying $165 per visit. And I was like, I'm literally just talking about my feelings, which I can do on my own podcast because I was doing it on my podcast at the time of my divorce. So I was like, I'm just going to go home and start recording. And I'd sit there. I'd talk for 2 hours.
Do you want to talk about this on?
Yeah, heck yeah. Dude, we can talk about it. Okay. Well, this will be the beginning intro.
Okay.
But like I would talk about it for I'd go for 2 hours and talk about my feelings, like what happened. And I would spend most of the time crying on it, and I would go back and watch it because somebody told me to just record my feelings.
Yes, and you learn from watching you.
And I would watch myself, and I was like, I'm letting this person control my emotions.
And then you get this disappointment feeling of who you're becoming because you're being overtaken by your feelings.
100%, dude.
I know exactly what you mean.
And so, like,
because I did it myself.
Yes, and so like I started like looking at myself like, look how pathetic I look, just sitting here crying over this. Like, I need to move past it. So I've recorded probably 9 episodes of that.
Let's get into this because I've done this too. I can compare to this too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did about 9 episodes of that, and each one ranges from an hour or 35 minutes to 2.5 hours. So like if I put them all together, it's probably 20 hours of content, probably. Like it is a lot. And it's just me talking about how I feel, what happened during the entire marriage, everything I thought I did wrong and everything I thought she was doing wrong, but things I was trying. I came to the realization when I was talking about it, it's like, I tried. Like, I really tried. Yeah. And, that other person didn't. Like, and it's, there's probably things I could have done better. I know there's things I could have done better, but like, I learned so much about relationships during and after. And learning how to talk to a woman, like how to treat a woman in a marriage, even though you're not feeling the reciprocated feelings or actions. Yeah. So there's a ton. Like what was it that you learned about yours?
So I did the same thing, like especially like after Callee, you know. So I went seeing this guy. He was a counselor. I also went saw a doctor. I also went saw our pastor. I also talked to other people that were kind of related to the issue, and I also talked to a couple other guys that kind of went through the same thing. None of it helped me. Nothing helped me because it's just a matter of learning and understanding what it's happening and how to control it and how to live it. So then one day I was driving, and then I had that little case that I was telling you for where I have the cross, but I kept my phone on there, and this is before I was able to figure out that I could put the cross. So I kept my phone on there, and I just turned the phone around, and I shoot a video, and I'll be driving and talking, and so then I'll just kind of talk to God, maybe sometimes the devil. Sometimes I felt like I was able to talk to her. And I would just, put the phone away once I got done talking, and, a couple days went by, and then I would go back and I will watch the video. And then I'm like, damn, like what is going on with me? Like, why am I, who am I becoming? I don't like this person, and so that kept going, and I kept recording myself, and I kept doing it. And sometimes I feel like I talk to myself when nobody's around, and sometimes
because you're more honest with yourself.
Yes, because you can't hide from you. It's like I was always told the most important person in this world is the person in the mirror, and I kept doing that, and I kept talking to myself, and I kept seeing that the more I did it, the more I learned. But everything that I learned, I didn't like, because I kept seeing the person that I didn't know or didn't like or that I didn't look up to, and then I kept getting discouraged. And then we bought a set of Ring cameras. And so we set a ring on outside on the front yard, one in the backyard, one by the door, one in the kitchen, one in the living room, and one in the office. So we just set them just like, like at first we did it for the dogs, because like they would get on the couch and we would scream at the dogs, get off the couch, and things like that. But then, life goes on, and then you have episodes with your son or your wife or this person or the other person, and you kind of have maybe an outburst, maybe an argument or a fight or, all these things that happen, within your house that, usually the public don't know. And sometimes you think you know somebody until you really know that person, in private. So that's kind of what I got to experience. I got to meet this person that I didn't know in private, because I knew me for who I thought I was. But then whenever you go back on the camera and you pull the video on Ring, and then you watch yourself get into it with your son over something so petty, or with your wife, and then you go on and on and on, and you just make like a river out of a shot glass,
Yes.
and then you start learning from watching you, and then it's like, and then that, I think that is what taught me who I was becoming, but it didn't help me fix it, and I feel like until this day I still do it. Like I still watch myself on camera, and sometimes like we decided that we was gonna do this whole thing where we get together once a week and we talk about how our family is, what we're doing wrong, what we're not doing. And I told my wife, I was like, maybe save the moment on your notes or whatever, time and date, and then pull it up on the camera, and then bring the video out, and then be like, okay, here, watch what you did. So then I don't want to see it because I feel like I get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I think that's helping me. That's helping me kind of just learn about me, but it's not helping me fix me. So I haven't really found the recipe of how to fix me, because I still struggle with many things, and until this day, sometimes I struggle with just like letting go, or I'm an overthinker. So I just I think something over. It never stops. But the talking to someone else and going to paying someone else, I don't think it helped me. I don't think it did nothing for me. And especially somebody that couldn't relate, because they can, they have a title or, a degree, but, they have problems of their own. But when I talk to somebody like you about something that you lived and something that I did, then it's like, it's free,
That's the best part.
Yeah.
That's the best part. It's free.
And then I get to learn because I'm not the only one.
Yes.
I guess I'm not the only weak one, or I'm not the only one that's disappointed, or I'm not the only one that's like, I guess the black sheep.
You're not the only person that's hurting from this situation.
Yeah.
Dude, I felt like, because that I know of, I'm like the first one in my family, in my direct family, to get a divorce that I know of. So like, I know that, my aunt went through one. I was never close with her and that family, but like going through that I remember, and a lot of my people that know me know that Joe Hubbard's one of my best friends. He was one of the guys that I counted on. The first time that she told me she was leaving, he was the very first person that I called, and I called him screaming and crying. And the first thing he told me was, stop crying and go to your safe, count your money. And that's what I did. And she took half the money. So, but then I realized, I'm like, this is a guy I got to pay attention to. And he was there for me every single step. He texted me probably every day, 4 or 5 times a day, just checking in on me. But I remember specifically one night, and you might relate to this too. And those of you who went through a divorce or something terrible like that, you'll probably relate to this as well. My brother came here and he was trying to help. I know he was trying to help, but I had so much anger. I had so much hatred, and I was physically wanting to murder something. And I took it all out on him. And he came in and I just screamed and yelled, and I blamed everything on him that I was angry about. And I could not, the amount of yelling I did and screaming and crying, like I was yelling so loud. I remember thinking in my head, like, my voice is going to explode. Like, so much just, I can't, it's hard to explain. And he's sitting there, we're going back and forth, and I was ready to just beat the ever living crap out of him for something that would never related to him, for something that my ex-wife was doing. And my brother called Joe, my brother Nick. I've had Nick on, I've had Joe on, and he called Joe and he was like, Matt's an asshole, he's this and that. And Joe said something to him that, like, I remember now, that like I think about for other people. Like, he needs someone to beat the shit out of, and he needs someone to yell at that he trusts, that won't judge him afterwards. And he was right. And when he told that to Nick, I think Nick knew, was like, he's right. Because that's exactly what I needed. I needed to just have that person that would not judge me afterwards with whatever I said and whatever I did. I can let my guard down and just let my emotions out. And dude, after that, like every time he came over, he was the guy I yelled at. He was the guy I screamed at, got in his face. He was my punching bag.
Yeah.
And I respect him more for it. And I've been trying to be that kind of person for those that have, like a friend of mine right now is going through one. And I told him, the first thing I told him was, dude, if you need someone to hit, fucking hit me. Like, because as a guy, you have so much just anger built up, and you just don't know what to do with it, and you have to channel it in something.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you feel like after that happened, do you feel like those boundaries I assume they weren't crossed that day because you guys were brothers.
Yeah,
so
we're brothers. We're the
that,
same person.
Yeah,
We're
so
both
that kind of
idiots.
happened through growing up.
Yeah.
But do you feel like sometimes maybe that you open a door that kind of got you in a comfortable state of mind to where you do it more often?
Yes. 100%. Because now I've noticed myself open up to people that if I feel comfortable with them, it's like the term that a lot of people use now is like vibing with somebody. Let me change this. Like vibing, like, oh, I got a good vibe from this person.
Yeah.
But like I opened up to a guy that works at Gray Goat Bicycle down in Franklin. He's one of the owners of it. I think he is the owner of it. I was just sitting there and I was picking up hobbies left and right. Like I was telling you about before this podcast.
Yeah.
I just started picking up anything and everything I could do just to focus on something.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, so why are you starting riding? And as soon as he said that, I don't know why, I just had a tear run down my face. And he just sat there. He's like, you can talk, man. And then I told him, like, I told him all the whole story. And he's like, he put his arm on my shoulder and he's like, I can relate, man. He's like, my ex-wife did the same thing. He said, I found out she was sleeping with someone else and she left me. And then 2 years later, she tried to come back and I told her no. He's like, so I get what you're going through. And I sat there and I talked to him and I opened up to him. I'm like, I never would have opened up to some stranger. I still don't know the guy's name. All I know is that if I ever need anything bike-wise done, bicycle-wise, I go to that guy because he talks to me.
Yeah.
But dude, I noticed that I talk about my emotions and my feelings. I'm more open about it, obviously, on this podcast. Like, but then you meet somebody, and this podcast is about you. I'm sorry I made it about me in the beginning. I'm sorry, but like, you notice that I feel stronger being able to talk about my emotions. And you look at me like, I'm not the biggest guy. I'm not, the smartest. I'm not the strongest. But like, I look a little bit more on the larger side. I've got some tattoos just like you, man. You're sleeved out. You're buff too. Like, you seem so intimidating.
I'm a little guy.
No, you're not, dude. You're still a swole dude. But like, you seem so intimidating and so like strong, like nothing will break you down. But then you just talk to the person and it's like, no, dude, I'm a big teddy bear. Like, I have emotions too.
Yeah.
And
we all cry too.
Everyone cries.
Yeah.
And everyone has those emotions, man. And so do you still, like you said, you still vlog today with your family?
So my wife, she started, for whatever reason, in the last couple of weeks, she has a notebook, and now, so every night she'll just write about her day. So it's like a diary sort of.
Yeah.
So
like
then,
a journal entry. Yeah.
Yeah. So now she's like, she, at the end of the night, she'll start asking me these questions, or like the other night she was like, describe, give me 3 words that describe who you are. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know, and then so things like that. So then, we always try to figure it out, how to, I guess, better ourselves, because I feel like we had something so pure and clean and amazing at one point, and it's not like we don't have that no more, but now we have a baby, so then it's like sometimes having something is not that important as it is to keep it, so then as time went on, we kind of lost, I wouldn't say lost respect for each other, but we did the exact same thing that you and your brother did. So we went through things, we faced them together, but then we became each other's punching bags.
Damn.
And then, because she's the one close to me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm the one close to her. And then, we saw the same things, we lived the same things, we suffered the same pain. I always felt like, obviously mine was a little bit different because, because she was my daughter and not hers. But it was one of them things too where like I take my anger out, and I take it out on her, and and my son, and it's not like we like throw each other coffee mugs or nothing like that, yeah. But words, words make like
words cut, man.
Yes, and I feel like we've crossed those boundaries, and it's not like we are full of a verbal abuse, mm-hmm. but sometimes we just like run into each other and don't say nothing to each other, or I'll wake up and she'll wake up, and then I'll go brush my teeth, and she'll go brush her teeth, and then we just don't say nothing to each other. And it's not like we don't love each other, or like we're doing each other wrong, but we just kind of we're trying to get that back, and we're trying to work on how to like spark things up. And then now we have a 6-month-old, so now it's we've been worried about like being able to bring him into a loving family, and have a good a good influence. So we keep working on that, but the camera, the rings is something that just happens because we don't really mean to record each other, but they're there. So then at first, if somebody would have said to me, oh, let's set up cameras inside of the house, I would think, man, you're crazy. Like, why would I set cameras inside my house? Like, that's like some weird stuff.
Yeah. That's like some weird
yeah. But then we started doing it, like because of the dogs, and then, but you forget they're there.
Yeah.
And then you just live, and then you sometimes, you don't, you forget the camera's there, and then you might start arguing about something, silly, but it escalates to something that just might have, hurt my feelings or her feelings, and we don't realize it. But then if we go back on it, then it's like, hey, like maybe we can pull it up, and then we can,
then you can see where things were going
wrong.
Yes.
And then that's when you start feeling embarrassed.
Yes.
And you start feeling like, you feel so ignorant about like, oh my God, like, did I really just left and, didn't answer your phone call for like, 4 hours because I was upset about that, because like, like somebody used the air fryer and then put it in the sink, and.
But there's usually typical, and now I hate to interrupt you, but like for me, and you may relate, and other people might relate to this too. If I get angry about something so small, it's because there's something bigger deep down that I'm angry about. Yes. And that's what tipped me off.
Yes. And it escalates.
And it builds up and it escalates.
Exactly. And she's in our case, she's the type of person that she's a little messier than I am. I'm more of a clean freak. She's not. So then I have to adapt to her, and I have to just accept her for who she is, and not let, little things like that, get in the way. But, I forget about that, and then sometimes I'm just kind of like, dumb about, wanting to like, bring up the dishes. But then it's like, but then she's been with the baby all day.
She's been working with that baby all day long.
So then it's like, and I guess we're all humans, and we forget about things like that. But back to seeing myself being that person, on the camera, it kind of makes me realize, like, it's your fault. Like, it's not her fault. It's your fault. Like, why are you so dumb? Like, why are you like, like, just walk in, say hi, ignore the mess, and move on. And then maybe just help clean up, but that's what's been helping me. I guess back to that. That's what's been helping me. Just kind of, seeing myself in the camera, or knowing. And now that I started doing it, I know that the camera is there because we kind of started this little habit about I started this little habit about watching myself.
You can use that as a euphemism. I guess the word would be euphemism, as in God is watching you.
Yeah, accountability.
Yes, it's your self accountability. Yeah. But then you could sit there and be like, that's how I think of it is God is watching me right now.
Yeah.
And is he going to be disappointed in me?
Yeah. Yeah. So then now it's like, like now I know that, I have, now I start noticing the cameras. Before I didn't. And then maybe maybe a year or two even went by that those cameras just were there, and I didn't even download the app on my phone. Because I just kind of, I switch phones every year. Mm-hmm. And so then, but now that I started making a habit of going to the camera, it's like, I started being more careful about what I said and how I said it or how I acted. And I'm doing it because I'm being recorded. because of the camera. But I don't have to answer to no one about what is being recorded, but to myself.
Yeah.
So then I go back to that person in the mirror, where I gotta, because I don't even tell my wife I'm gonna, look, I'm gonna get on the ring real quick and let's see like what all wrongdoings I have for the week.
Let's see what I've done wrong this
week.
week.
But when I feel insecure about something I did, then I go look at myself, and it's like, and then I do it in secret because I don't want to expose it, because I when I go back and look, is because it's my conscience, because I know that I did something wrong, that is being recorded, and is mine, is for me to see, and only my wife has access to it, and I have access to it. So my son don't have access to it. So essentially nobody, and my wife don't really do it. She hasn't picked up that habit. I have, and I don't really go and record, or I don't really go back on her to try to call her out on things.
That's really important,
because I made it about me.
Good.
So
that
then,
awesome.
And then there's just so much that records throughout the day, because it records 24 hours a day. So then, and now with the baby, it kind of helps because we put him in the living room, and then we might be doing dishes, and I just set the phone to the side so I can watch him, things like that. So it does help, but I think that is helping me a lot. Just being able to hold myself accountable, and I guess there's many ways to hold yourself accountable, but that's what's been working for me. And then when I was so now I don't record myself in my truck much anymore, because I feel like now I have the ring to deal with, so that's helping me, but I went to talk to a couple counselors. I tried it, and it's just, it just didn't work for me.
It's hard. And I agree with you. It's somebody who has to relate to it, who's been through it. And that's exactly what I did. I think it was the very first night that all went down for my situation on the divorce. And I can still name the people that showed up at my house. I can still name them: Chris Harrell, Jacob Hershey, Curtis Huffman, Joe Hubbard, my brother, my mom, my dad, and one of my sisters came. My other sister, I didn't want her knowing yet at the time. She was close with my ex. And they showed up at my house. I was surprised. I was very surprised that my crew showed up at my house, my firefighter crew, like the guys I work with. I was surprised, but it brought them closer to me.
Yeah.
And now we work together. Two of the guys, they moved on to better jobs, the better opportunities. And I'm closer with those guys than I've ever been before. I'm closer with my family more. They know a lot of what happened, and just about everything. But having someone show up and be there, and they hold you accountable because they know what you went through.
Yeah.
And the guys that have been through divorces before, I just contacted them. I was like, what do I do? Like, how did you feel like this? And then to come to realize what we talked about earlier, there's guys that felt the same way, dude. These guys that you look at, they're like these big, huge, tough dudes. And then they're like, no, I cried too. Like, it's tough. Like, yeah, you're alone. You're alone. Yeah. You are now, you can always say the whole, with Christ, you're never alone, but it's like, but you feel alone unless you're diving into the books. And I did notice that I did dive into scripture a lot more often at that time. Cause like the whole saying of if you're sick, you need a doctor. If you're troubled, you go to Christ. Yeah. And my problem that I have now is I believe in God. I am all in on it. Like that he is real. Like I truly believe it. I truly believe that Satan attacks us every day.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. But it's like, I don't dive in as much as I used to. Yeah. And I get scared. Like I get scared because it's like, I feel like if I go to God, I'm like, I am a huge sinner. Like there's so much I have to work on. And that's how I see myself as. And then, but having the people that hold you accountable, like to your actions and what you do and your decisions, and making the greatest friends. And like I had people that I haven't talked to in like months or years hit me up and check up on me. Within that first 2 weeks of that happening, I had 64 people either show up at my house or call me or text me. 64 separate people. And I cried about it all the time because I'm like, there's so many people that care, and there's so many people that have been through something similar to this.
Yeah.
I'm not alone. But then you're by yourself in the middle of the night and you're like, I'm alone. And it's just miserable. Yeah. And then but that's what everyone goes through. So then empathizing with others. And then the counselors that I saw a Christian counselor, did nothing for me. because they're all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
God is good. God is
Yeah.
great. But it's like,
Yeah.
there is times where God is going to be putting you through situations or let situations happen that it's going to hurt and it's going to be painful, but you're going to have to grow from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. Sometimes like, like I have this battle with God, like I still do,
I think we all do, man.
and I have, a personal relationship. I would say that, and before that, I guess a while back ago, I guess it was more of a public relationship with God, going
Keeping up appearances.
Yeah. And then, then after a while, it just became personal, and became personal to where like, I talk to God in my own ways. Like I don't even think I pray anymore. Because I just don't pray. I just like I communicate in a different way.
That's awesome.
So then it's like I don't really I don't know if it's, I don't know, maybe it's the same thing. It's just a different way of praying. A different way to communicate with Him. And then sometimes I lose touch. Sometimes I feel like I'm angry. Sometimes I feel like I'm angry, and I just don't know if I if I want to like dedicate a lot of time and do, communicating with Him, because then it becomes just like back and forth. When before it was just faith, it was just like,
But when you're going through the hard stuff, that's when you just said that, dude, that just brought a memory back up in my head. When you're going through the hard stuff, you need someone like God that is so strong to take your anger.
Yeah.
Because, dude, I remember sitting there screaming and yelling at God, like blaming Him like it was His fault, even though it was my fault because I'm the leader of the house. Like, there's a lot of things that were my fault. There's other things that were her fault, but I try to take the blame on a lot. And thank God He is so strong. Like, I'm so embarrassed when I go back and talk to Him. Like, hey, listen, I'm really sorry, man. Like, I said a lot of things to you because I was angry. Do you mind if I bring up what happened with your daughter?
No.
Okay,
no.
So your daughter was lost in a horrible accident.
Yeah.
And Lake Monroe.
Yeah, Lake Monroe.
Lake Monroe, and I was actually on shift when it happened, but I work in a completely different area. So, but I saw the notes pop up on it, and I was like, "Holy shit, that is terrifying!" I had no idea it was you, and I had no idea it was your family. Can you tell me what happened, or tell the viewers what happened?
Yeah. So. July. It was a July. Summer. Summer. I think it was a Sunday. And I got invited to. To go to the lake. And I own a pool company, and I really don't know how to swim. Some people, a lot of people laugh at me. But I can't tread water. Mm-hmm. So I can maybe, I can dive and, 20, 30 feet, from one side of the pool to the other. But if you drop me, if I jump off a boat without a life jacket, I think I'll drown. I have this phobia, just with this overwhelming amount of water around me, and
fear of open water.
Yes, and not knowing what's at the bottom or
monsters.
And I don't know what it is, but I do. I have it. I've always had it. So we went out on a boat, and I didn't get in the water. No, actually I did. I got in the water towards the very end. My daughter, she knew how to swim, so she was she loved the water, and so did my wife, and everybody else got in the water. So then I kept getting. Somebody kept asking me, the owner of the boat, man. So he kept asking me to get on the tube, right? And I was like, nah, I'm good. I ain't getting on no tube. I see what you guys are doing, you try and knock each other off the tube. I'm not doing it. I'm good. And they kept asking me, and they kept asking me, and they kept asking me, and they kept asking me. And then as the day went along, I just get tired of hearing it. And I was starting to get mad about it. So then my wife, she kind of saw that I was kind of getting mad. At this point, I was just kind of, I was starting to it was starting to get personal, so now it was starting to become Now it was like, like really frustration and rage, it's like, and I wanted to like scream, like stop asking me to get on the tube, so my wife, she grabbed me and she was like, hey, look, like I know how to swim, like you have a life jacket, like it's the end of the day, let's try. So then I was like, okay. So then I was like, hey, like, don't be speeding. Don't be, doing nothing crazy. Like, I'm going to trust you. And so he's like, yeah, man, for you, I'm not going to do anything crazy. Like, I got you. So then I did. I climbed on this big tube. And the rope was probably like, I don't know, maybe like 40 foot, 60 foot long. I can't remember. And my daughter was on the very back of the boat. Kind of like staring at me with another kid. There was another boy. He was probably around the same age as she was, but she was 8 at the time. And so then, they're just cruising, and we're heading towards the dock. I guess we're trying to get the boat on the trailer, which I can't remember the name of the where we unloaded. So we're heading in that direction, and he's moving kind of slow, and by now I'm getting comfortable. So now, like, there's not a whole lot of fear. Me and my wife are just like looking at each other, so we're facing each other because like I don't want to like. She's trying to get my mind off being in the tube. So then she's like, just look at me. And then she started grabbing my face. And she's like, just look at me, talk to me, let's talk. So we're just like looking at each other, talking. And next thing I know, man, like I heard a scream. And I looked back at the boat. And there was a lot of action. I didn't really know what was going on. And then the boat kind of came to a stop. The tube kind of kept moving. And then next thing you know, I saw people jumping off the back of the boat. And, by now, I saw my daughter floating, coming up out of the water. And I jumped in the water for whatever reason. I don't know how or why, but I jumped in the water, to grab her. And by now there was a few guys that that reached where she was and, grabbed her. And then my wife grabbed me and then everybody's, we all start swimming towards the boat. And then we got her on the boat and, they laid her on one of the seats and, this guy that was there, he grabbed a couple towels and put them on top of her, and she was like, she was barely there. So then, we call 911. I call 911, and we got we got to the ramp, and I jump off the truck, or I jump off the boat. And I ran to the truck because I wanted to get her on the truck. And I really didn't know what was going on. And I just knew that she wasn't, like all there. And she was in and out of conscience. And my wife was, grabbing her hand. And, the other guy was there, on top of her. And, and I just remember the pavement being so hot and so hard. And I was just running, and I just couldn't stop running. And I just ran and ran and ran. I felt like it took forever. I got in my truck. I drove my truck back. And then I went down the ramp. And then for whatever reason, like nobody wanted to let her off the boat. And nobody wanted to pass her down to me. And I kept screaming, and then there were so many rocks at the bottom, and I kept trying to step on the side of the boat. They're trying to get them to hand me my daughter. And long story short, the ambulance showed up. We got her on the ambulance, and we went to the hospital, Monroe Hospital. So then I got in my truck, and we followed the ambulance. And I mean, when we were on the way there, man, it was like. it was amazing in a way, and I never forget it because I feel like we were doing 120 miles an hour. You know, the ambulance was just like, it was flying, and I was flying right behind it. And then I had maybe like 6 cops behind me. There was like 6 cops in front of us. Like every single road that we were approaching, like, you know, the cops that were in front of us were like, you know, like was just like black roads, you know, and black traffic. And then some of the cops behind us will like, you know, pass us because there was like, you know, 5 cops or 6 cops in front of us that kept like blocking the roads. And it was like, just like, it was so tactical, man. It was just like the way they were doing it. And it was just like, and I was like, you know, I was just kind of so grateful at the time because I was just trying, you know, I was just like seeing everybody just putting so much effort and like, you know, trying to get us there. And then we got there, and, you know, and when we got there, we were, you know, we went into the emergency room, and then I called my mom and I called my sister, and, you know, they drove to Bloomington, and they were there maybe within like a half hour. Everybody that was in the boat, like, didn't show up. Like I was telling you, like, nobody showed up to the hospital. They were drinking, you know, and they, you know, for what I understand, like, they loaded the Tritune and they drove it to Franklin Township, and they pretty much, they said that they went parked it somewhere else, and I don't care what they have to say, but they hit it. They hit the boat and they parked it at somebody else's house that I know. And the dude that owned the boat, he was in the process of buying a house. So instead of going to his house, he went to the house that he was buying. And in all reality, he did that because, you know, like, he was just hiding. You know, because like, in case that they came and did like a breathalyzer or they drew his blood or whatever, and he hid. And then,
well, I will say some people deal. I don't know I wasn't there, obviously, but with trauma and traumatic experiences, some people just don't make the right decisions. Some people just make poor decisions.
Yeah.
And whether what was on his heart or his mind. And I would say the same thing for anybody in a traumatic experience. I don't know what I would do, and I'm not defending or making a case for anybody. So with traumatic experiences, man, that things go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, everything was pretty crazy, you know. But at the time, it was like,
but I could see
like,
the
we were
anger.
friends, you know. Yes. So we were like in a group of friends.
Yeah.
So then it was like, you know, like that day, you know, like I guess, you know, learning that she passed, you know. And like I told you, you know, like Chris Elliott, which he was, you know, one of the cops.
One of the officers.
Yeah. So, you know, he was like, you know, he got there and he was there for me. And, you know, they were asking me, you know, have you guys been drinking, you know? And I was like, yeah, we've been drinking. I mean, like, I know how many beers I had. I know I wasn't the operator or the driver. You know, like, I made an effort to, you know, be straightforward about the fact that, hey, man, like, you know, like don't be getting wasted, you know, like, you know, like, you know. So then it's like, if you're like 220 pounds, you know, like, you know, you should probably only have like 3 beers, you know, for you to be like, you know, like, you know.
Yeah, there's an acceptable limit to be on the boat.
Yeah.
Whoever's operating or whoever's on the boat watching kids, don't be getting trashed. Yeah, it's common sense stuff.
So, and I knew how many beers were on the boat because I put the ice in the coolers. So I just knew how many beers were in the boat. And I just didn't think nothing of it. So then DNR came and like did an investigation. You know, they came to the hospital and they talked to me, and, you know, they pretty much asked where everybody was at. And I was like, I don't know where everybody is. So then, you know, they, you know, and even the officers that were there, they were like, hey, where are all your friends? You know, like we want to talk to everybody. You know, like, you know, if they're coming. And I was like, I don't know, man. I haven't talked to anybody. So then, you know, after all that went down, and, you know, my daughter passed away, and, you know, then we came home, And then we drove home, and it was like the worst drive of my life, man. It was like we left her behind, and and it was one of them deals. Then we had to wait for her to get shipped to Terre Haute for whatever reason, because she was a minor, so they were gonna do like an autopsy, and then DNR had this investigation going. So then DNR was, I gave them my information. Then they were reaching out to me, trying to get information, from everybody else. So then it was like maybe 3 or 4 days later, the DNR showed up to my house, and until this day, I had a story, but my story was different than everybody else's story. So everybody else has a story of what happened, and I'm the only one with a different story. And
so that looks bad on you to DNR.
Well, it was one of them deals to where like I thought I saw something, but I was on the tube, and I just really didn't know what was going on the boat, and all I remember was Callee being on the back of the boat, with the little boy, and then she kept like waving at me and throwing kisses at me and telling me that I was gonna be okay and don't be scared, and and she was just sweet, man, and we were really close. And then Jen kept telling me, hey, just talk to me, relax, talk to me, don't just ignore everything else around you. So then I started focusing on her, and then I kept looking at her, and we kept looking at each other, and I kind of just kept looking back at the boat every so often, and I kept seeing her. But for whatever reason, I thought she jumped off the back of the boat. And that was like the last memory I had. It was that she jumped off the back of the boat. But everybody else says she fell from the front of the boat. And then DNR came to me and told me, hey, this is what's going on. Like, this is what you think you remember, but this is what everybody else is telling us. So then they did an investigation. And then everybody was saying that she jumped off the front of the boat. And he asked me to stand up. So he's like, stand up for me. So he's like, okay, so you remember her jumping off the back of the boat? And I was like, yeah, I want to say I do remember her jumping off the back of the boat. So he's like, so jump like she did. So I was like, what do you mean? He's like, just jump, just for what you remember, just act for a second, and then just pretend you're her, and then just jump, and then just whatever plays out in your mind, just do it. So I was like, okay. So I stood up and I jumped the way I thought I remember she did. And so then he was like, that's funny that, you say that she jumped off the back of the boat, which, we're going to come up with a different conclusion according to the investigation. He's like, but I've asked everybody else the same question. And everybody else, whenever we talk, everybody says she jumped off the front of the boat. But whenever I asked everybody, okay, show me how she jumped, he's like, everybody don't do it, or say that they don't really remember seeing her jump. So until this day, nobody that was there have came up to me and told me what happened. So like until this day, like the story that they gave DNR, or the story they tell to one another, or the story they tell other people, then I've never been told that story. And as time went on, then the dude that owned the boat, he kept sending people my way to like pretty much like get information from me. Oh, like what do you know? And I just simply knew, because it was like they would come and ask me questions, and it was like one of them deals to where like so then I started like separate myself from everybody, and then as time went on, I just kind of You know, like if I would have been in that position, and if you have a daughter, and if we would have went to the boat or to the lake, and I would have been the one that invited you, and you know, I guess I would have managed, and I would have like faced the situation in a totally different way. You know, and I guess you know, to me, you know, like the connection between me and you would have been like, you know, unbreakable because of the circumstances. And I felt like, and then my ex-wife, she filed a lawsuit against me, my wife, and him. And then he wanted me to file like a claim on the insurance, so I could get some money out of it, which I didn't. I just, you know, I told him that I didn't want to fucking file a claim, you know, because I wasn't trying to get paid. You know, it's like, you know, like that. Yeah, it's like, but, you know, I kept being encouraged into filing a claim because I could get some money and this, not, and the other. And we just opened our business in May. And I just like quit my job. My wife quit her job. We went on our own in May. And this happened in July. So then it was like, you know, but then people that were associated to him and to me, you know, just kind of kept like, you know, sort of encouraging me to like, you know, do this or do that, or, and then they, you know, like a lot of people were encouraging me to like, you know, keep a relationship with him and to try to like, you know, basically, you know, just, you know, be there for each other. And I tried it, you know, just because like I felt like I needed that in my life. Like I needed that bond and that connection, because I felt like I wasn't able to share my pain with her mother because she blamed me. So then she like wanted to like, you know, fight me and, you know, point the finger and, you know, like just pretty much like, you know, try to like use it all against me. So I feel like the only other person that I was able to connect was with him, because, you know, like he was in charge of the situation and it happened under his watch. And then he convinced me to get on the tube, which I asked him like 10 times to stop asking me to get on the tube. So then, you know, like you kept pushing me. And then I get on the tube and then my daughter dies, you know, and then you're supposed to be watching after my daughter, you know, and then like I trust you for like, you know, not even 15 minutes, you know, and I've been like, you know, taking care of my daughter and trying to do the best for her, trying to raise her, trying to have custody of her and all this. And then next thing you know, it's like I trust you with my daughter for 15 minutes and then my daughter dies. And then you like skid and then like leave and then, you know, drive and then go put the boat, you know, in a totally different place where you always keep it and you don't take it to any of your properties and you just go hide it in somebody else's house and then they put a tarp over it, you know, sort of deal.
It seems like super fishy.
Yeah,
It
and then
makes it seem really way worse.
Yeah, and then they try, and then he tries to like maintain a relationship with me, which it was pretty fake, you know, just because you can recognize a relationship, you know, from the start, whether you really have good intentions or bad intentions. And my wife kept telling me like you need to like step away from that relationship because he's using you. Because he don't want you to sue him. So he's trying to keep you as a friend, as in keep your enemies closer, because Kim, which is my ex-wife, is suing me, you, and him, and you refuse to file a claim against the insurance. So you refuse to go against him on a legal background. So right now you're looking as guilty as him because you don't want to go against him. And she, my ex-wife, you know, was suing us three. And instead of me like teaming up with my ex-wife to try to go after him, I just simply chose to not have nothing to do with it because I just didn't want nothing to do with him or her for that matter, because, you know, she was my ex-wife for a reason. And, you know, the only person that I needed at the time was just my wife and my son. and my mom and my dad and my close ones. And, so then I just kind of concentrated on all that. I hired an attorney to represent me and to pretty much like, like I didn't want to hear nothing from it. I don't want, don't bring me no paperwork. Don't bring me nothing. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to collect any money. I don't want to get paid from her death. I don't want nothing. I just want this to be over, and I want you to take the drama and, and take it from my table, put it on your table, and then do not allow it to land back on my table. Mm-hmm. And so, and throughout this time, there was like other people that came into our lives and kind of played a role with being involved in my life just because it was the height of the season. And everything was happening with the lawsuits and all this and all that. And as soon as that lawsuit was over and she got paid, it was like, it was over. It was done. And then I actually called him, and I was like, hey man, I just wanted to be frank. I just kind of, I feel like, like this is not real. And, and I just don't know why we keep like
the situation that you were in didn't feel real.
Yeah.
Or the whole,
or the relationship or anything about it. And I was like, and I was like, and then he said to me, well, now that the lawsuit's over, like, basically like, I basically like, we don't need to pretend no more because now like everything's over.
That's weird.
Sort of deal. And then I was like, you're right. I was like, you're right. I was like, so now, I mean, you really didn't have to be a part of my life throughout this whole thing because like I told you from day one, like I don't want nothing from you. Like I don't want to collect no money from you or from your insurance or anything like that. And his boat was on his business name. So essentially like his business was at jeopardy.
It was attached to it.
Yeah, because so, and I just chose to like, not have nothing to do with it. And I just wanted to like deal with it, by myself with my family.
Did it feel like to you that whole situation, when it was going down, that it didn't seem like it really happened? It just seemed like you were in a weird dream?
Yes. Can
you explain, if you remember that, can you explain how that felt? Or how that worked out?
So because it's like, okay, so her dying, that was just a statement, that just, like, and then the funeral happened. So then, burying her was kind of like what became a little real, because, we had to put her away and then we had to walk away and then she got left there. And then we had to leave, and then there was a hole, and, we dropped her into this hole, and now there was just a empty hole, or a hole with her in it, like no dirt, nothing, just a mound of dirt next to it. And there was like 3 workers and a backhoe sort of deal. So then I had to leave. And then now it's like and then now it started like becoming really, really, really real. Because now it was like the last time that I saw her, and knowing that like I was leaving her behind there for good and I was never going to see her again. As time went on, then you all of a sudden, it's not just her dying, because then you have gymnastics, then you have church on Sundays, and then you have like, so then we have this whole routine, structure, pattern about our lives, and everything pretty much is around her because she's the youngest at the time. And, so my son was a little older. He didn't live with me at the time. So it was just her, Jen, her and I. And so then now, like, our whole life was completely turned around because now we just didn't have the structure. We don't have her. We don't have to put her to bed. We don't have to wake her up. We don't have to get her ready for school. We don't have to pack her lunch. We don't have to, to help her with homework. And it was just like that. One day we had all that, and then the next day we just didn't. And then as time went on, everything just kind of became, a struggle because, now, like, the whole pattern is gone, the whole structure is gone. And then as that went on, I felt like I feel like I grew very angry, and then next thing I know, like, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Actually, I used to get up at 4:20. So I used to get up for 4:20 for like, I don't know how many years, man. And then like at 4:35 or so, like I'll eat 10 eggs, a cup of rice, a bagel, and I go to the gym, and that was my routine. I did that for years. And then one day that was gone too. And I just couldn't get up. I just couldn't eat. And slowly but surely, my life just, got upside down. And now, like, my wife and I's marriage, like, Callee was not Jen's daughter, but, I had her. So then she played a huge role in her life. So then, like, our relationship sort of was built around her. So then we took her out now. And then now we're like strangers to each other.
Really?
Because now it's like, from the time that we get up to the time that we go to bed, we have a little girl in the mix. And this little girl is just active, proactive, crazy, social, like she never stopped. There was always something, this, pictures, drawing, video, braids, makeup, fingernails, toenails, all this. And then with my wife, she relate to it because, they were both girls. So then I was her dad, and I love her and I love my wife. And then to me, it was like seeing this happening. It was like, like any man's goal, because now you have a daughter, then you have a new girl in your life, and then your daughter and the girl that you have in your life now are like, like two peas in a pod. So then now it's like, it's a dream come true. Mm-hmm. And so then we built our relationship based on that. But then now it's like, little girl's gone. So now it's like, in a way, we kind of were strangers to each other, because now then it became about me and her. And now I'm a upside down individual because I'm not the same, and neither is she, because, we lived it and we saw it, and then we had to deal with that. And then, then we just opened our own business, and, so now we have to worry about like making the business grow and be successful. And, like this happened on a Sunday, and Monday morning, we started a pool. Because we just had, we picked up a couple of accounts, and then we had to work, and then we just couldn't stop. So then, but my guys, somehow they heard about it. And when we got home at like 9:45, maybe on Sunday night, like all of my guys that I had at the time, and they've only been my employees for maybe like a month and a half, they came to my house at like 10:30 at night. And they all drove together, and they came to my house, and they all pretty much came and hugged me and cried with me. And then they went back home, and then at 7 o'clock in the morning we met, and we dug and started building a new pool, for a new customer here in Center Grove. And like the day even the day we buried her, like I think we worked like a few hours that morning. So then it became about work, because it was already about work, because we just opened a business. Mm-hmm. But now it was just so challenging. Everything was challenging, because it was just, and now the person that my wife was getting to know was a person that was like broken and damaged, and it was almost like and then it became too much, because I process things different than her, and like my love language is different than her love language. So then even sympathy and empathy, and I think that we just kind of disconnected with those things. And sometimes I felt like maybe like she didn't feel about it the way I did, or, and there was just all these little silly things that, that I dealt with in my mind, kept playing tricks on me. And, and then like, I was hurt about the whole situation because I even hit the gym with these guys. So then it became like a morning routine, and then we went to the gym, and the same guys that were, or not the same guys, but some of the ones that were there, at least the one that I consider my good friend at the time, was the one that was, that owned the boat, and we worked out together, and all of a sudden, like everything changed, everything got turned around, and we don't talk, so we don't talk, we don't have no relationship. Like her birthday or her anniversary or things like that. Like he never reached out. Or
what was it that ended up? Was it the propeller of the boat?
Yeah,
it was the propeller that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the propeller hit her abdomen, and I honestly never read the autopsy. And I never saw the damage. She had a little cut in her face. I don't know if you know Mickey, Mickey Gillen.
No.
So Mickey, he preps bodies and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, I do know Mickey.
Yeah, so Mickey was a friend of mine.
He's a shorter, buff dude. Yeah, long hair. Looks like he's from California.
Yeah, so Mickey,
he's a good guy. I like him.
So Mickey, he actually, like his daughter's name is Callee. My daughter's name was Callee, and then we met and we became friends. And so Mickey actually, he was actually there for me. He was there for me, like he was a true friend, I guess. And just like, and then I kind of kept comparing, like, and then there was a lot of people, like you said, there was a lot of people that came into my life. People that I lost touch with, people that I didn't think that I was important to them, people that, just all kinds of different people. And these people showed me love and empathy and sympathy and support, and went out of the way and text me and called me and offer help, or they brought me food, or there were just all these things. And I feel like it was all coming from strangers. And they weren't really strangers, but at one point or another, if you don't have that much communication with one person, and then you just simply know each other, they're a little bit, they're just acquaintance, not friends. But all this came from like other people that weren't really, in my circle, or like, and the people that were like in my circle, was the ones that were creating the difference into the relationship. And then so then it took all these other people that come into my life for me to see the difference into how the situation was being handled. And then, but we just kind of, kept moving forward, and I kept talking to people, and I kept, talking to myself on the phone. And, now it's been a while now. And, there for a long time, we were kind of, in a way, just kind of living without a purpose. And then our business kept growing, and, we kept, I guess, we kept putting in pools, and, we kept following, like the same pattern, and, kept working hard. And, I think maybe because I needed something like your hobbies, like I just needed something to take my mind off
to
of
focus
it.
on.
Yes.
To almost ignore,
Yes.
I would say almost to ignore the pain.
Yes.
That you had,
Yeah.
that was sitting there, that you just don't know what to
Yeah.
do with. And it's not like I'll deal with these later, but it's you saying, or at least it was for me, like I need to focus on something, that way I can build my confidence.
Yeah.
I can build my strength, my emotional support system for myself and my people around me,
But
and
then
try to grow.
But then as time
then
went
come
on,
back to it.
I kept getting growing angrier, because I felt like I had to give her up. Like I feel like I had to forget her.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I had to like take the pictures off the walls. Like I feel like I had to change my screensaver. I feel like I had to like, ignore her. You know, like I didn't touch her room for like maybe like
I
a
can't
year.
imagine that feeling.
You know, like a year and a half or maybe even 2 years. I can't remember. Like I didn't touch her room. I just didn't. Like I didn't do her laundry. I didn't touch her room, you know, and it was my safe spot. You know, like I just go there when I felt bad and I just lay in her bed and, you know, cuddle with her dirty laundry.
If this is too much to ask, or if this is stepping over a boundary, let me know. But did you feel like if you did any of that, that you were shutting the door on that chapter?
Yes. Oh. Yes. And then I had to start somewhere. And then, you know, my wife kind of encouraged me into like, you know, moving forward in that direction because I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to give it up. You know, but then taking some of the pictures down helped me because I felt like I betrayed her in a way. Because of my decisions, or maybe, and sometimes I feel like maybe like I should have chose my surroundings better, you know.
You can't change the past on that.
Yeah,
there's no control.
But then I kept going back to that, and then, you know, people kept working in my life, you know, and I kept talking to some people about it, and, you know, like about like, you know, then letting go and, you know, not blaming me, or and you know, sometimes I still struggle with that. But, you know, I guess getting rid of her room was probably the hardest part after leaving her behind. You know, and then one time right before I got rid of her room, like I got home and I don't know what it was, man. I was overwhelmed. Like I just wanted to cry. I didn't know. I feel like I hit a block wall, and then I prayed, and I kept praying, and I cried, and I went into her room, and I just cry, and then I started praying for signs, and I don't know what it was, man. It's kind of crazy, but I was in the middle of work, and I just kind of went to her room. I started crying, and I couldn't stop crying, and I ended up in Florida that day. I felt like I needed signs, and I packed a bag. My wife was super worried, but she was at the same time supportive. And my sister, she was there at the time too, and they were like, "Do what you gotta do. Just do whatever it is that you think is gonna, you know, work for you." And I remember. For whatever reason, all over, people were putting signs that said, "Be kind." And I don't know what they meant. I don't know what they were about, but they were just little square signs. And then, you know, like I see it in people's yards. I see it on the side of the highway. I see it, you know. And when I was crying, I closed her door. And behind her door, she had a little sign that she made herself. And it was, I can't remember exactly what it said now. Love your family, this and that and the other. And then at the bottom of it said, "Be kind." And I remember somehow about the signs, and I kept reading, and they didn't mean nothing to me. You know, I just kept running into them. Boom, be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind. And my daughter was like really just full of like softness, and she was just awesome, man. She wasn't like I guess there are childs, and I think there are extraordinary childs. You know, there are like, you know, there are people and they're normal people, but there's some people that are just extraordinary, like Elon Musk in my book.
He is awesome.
You know, like he's just extraordinary in his own way. And then there's other people, you know, that in their own way, they're just kind of like extraordinary. They're just not they're not like an average person. And to me, my daughter was that way. Not because she was my daughter, but because the things she said, how her mind operated, how her heart, the questions she asked, the things she wanted to know, the things she was curious about, just everything about her. Since she was a really little girl until the day she died, she was just extraordinary to me. And she was, to her, it was about like, it was about love and being kind, and and that was like like some of the things that were just like very much so Callee.
She was pure.
Yes, but kindness was like she wanted to hit the lottery so she could like feed the hunger, sort of deal. And like we actually went and did like for Thanksgiving, because she wanted to go do it. Like we went and did like where we fed the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think we delivered, maybe, I don't know, man, I think in total the total count was like maybe like 3,500 meals or something like that. We obviously didn't do all of them, but me and her, we packed, and it was just me and her. It wasn't like like we didn't do it for nobody else or for propaganda or for the business or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. It was just me and her. We did it. We went to the mission, and then we participated, and then we packed them, and we put them in our truck, and we passed them. We got a list of addresses, and then we was just like, and that's what like brought joy to her life. So to me that was her. Like, and then animals and just things like that. So that be kind at the bottom. I felt like it just clicked, and then next thing you know, I started remembering all these signs: be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind, and then it just start popping in my mind. And I remember a big one, for whatever reason. There was a big one going down 65, because we took a trip to Florida, and we drove, and I remember that sign. So then I took 65, and I just drove, and then my wife is like, take Trey. I'm a little worried. Just go take Trey. So then I ended up in Daytona Beach. And I was in room like 36. Then there was another guy 3 floors up that it was like in like 56. And this guy was there because he was running from something, like I was. And then we met. We went on a meeting. We was at there was like a bar, restaurant downstairs, and we kept eyeballing each other for whatever reason. There was like a huge guy, and then we kind of exchanged like hellos, sort of deal. Started talking, and then we got into each other. And this guy was there on the same mission as I was, as weird as it sounds. But he was running from his life. Not from the law or nothing like that, but he didn't really live a righteous life. But he wanted to change his life, and he wanted a new beginning, and he wanted all this, and so he ran based on signs, to looking for a sign. And so it was weird, man. It was really weird. So then we met, and me and this dude talked for so long. Like we would go, and we spend like all of our time together, me, him, and my son. And at night, my son would go to bed at like 10 o'clock, and me and him would go, and there was a couple chairs in front of the beach, and we just kind of sit there and smoke cigars, and just talk about his life, my life, and drink, and we do that until like 3-4 o'clock at night. And then we go back to our rooms, but I learned so much, from him, and I feel like he learned so much from me, and we still stay in touch. But it was just weird, how everything, so how that happened. And after that happened, I came home, and then that's when we kind of moved forward with, cleaning her room out. And
do you think that God was speaking to you through all of those signs, and speaking to you, to you through her?
It's the first time I felt like God was actually participating.
Wow. That's a weird way of saying it too. Like, I mean, you got to think about that. Like,
because I felt alone.
Actually participating in your life and pushing things towards you. And that's how you felt, even though he's been there the whole time, which is so hard it's so hard to think about. He's there the whole time, and we're not paying attention, and we're ignoring, and we're so focused on ourselves.
But I can probably say that's the only time in my life, and this is just a story, because it has no meaning right now, not much. But when it was happening, I was like, I was at my rock bottom. I mean, at that point, I did not know how to ask my right foot to move forward, and my left foot to follow. I did not know what to do. I was and then I just grabbed some clothes, grabbed my keys, and I told my wife, I'm leaving. Where you going? I don't know. And she's like, take Trey. And I was like, okay, you're not going to school for a couple of days. Let's go. So then I just started driving. No GPS, no nothing. I just started driving, and I just kept, and then, we got off the highway, and we were like maybe somewhere in Florida, Georgia line somewhere, and then we got off the highway because there was a wreck, and we're driving, and now we're like on this like dirt road sort of deal, up and down the hills, pine trees, and be kind. And it was like, what the hell, man? It's like, this is really happening. It's like it's and like the sign was just boom right there on the side of the road. Just like a little be kind. But back to those be kind signs that I kept seeing. And then it was just like, I'm telling you, it was like the first time in my life that I felt like God was participating into my journey. And it might sound super crazy, because it was kind of crazy to me at the time. But it got me there, and I feel like it gave me a breather, and I came back, and nothing was better. Things weren't better. I wasn't better. But I was alleviated in a way. Something happened inside of me that just kind of made me, made me breathe. Because I feel like, or allow me to breathe. Because I felt like before that I was like making myself breathe. I was just like, trying to like, pull like, every breath. I was just trying to like force it in, because I just, I felt like I had this knot on my chest, and I just couldn't, like a gorilla was on top of me and squeezing me 24/7. And I just, and I couldn't sleep right. I couldn't, and I still have trouble sleeping. But I felt like after that day, it was like the first time in a very long time that I was able to take a deep breath and feel like, it's going to be okay. Like there's something else coming up, we don't know what, but, I just kind of like something happened. I don't know what. And then I went back home. And then a couple months after that, me and my wife decided, it was our anniversary. And then we decided to like drive back to Florida. Because I was just kind of like obsessed with the signs. So I was like, oh, maybe we'll run into more signs, which we did. We actually did. But she got pregnant, and then according to like our time frame and everything, like, like she got pregnant in Florida.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then, so now our son, because we have a 16-year-old, but it's my son, and our son Crew, he's 6 months old, not 7 months old. So now he just kind of starting to, that purpose is kind of, back in our life. Like that routine is not there yet because he's so little. So right now it's just, like, the baby stage. But we feel like now we're just kind of, back on track. I feel like we're just kind of, going after that journey, that life around, that evolves around him and not us. So I feel like now we're just starting to find some common ground. There for a while, I feel like me and my wife even lost somewhat of a connection just because of, everything, how everything was happening. And I felt like we just kind of had to get to know each other and all that. But now we're just kind of like, he's a good baby. He's healthy.
He's a gorgeous baby.
Yeah, he reminds, and it's just things
he
does, and his eyes, reminds me of her. And, at first I wanted a little girl. I was just like, oh man, I hope I have a little girl. And I would just only say that to myself. Everybody's like, oh, what, you don't have a little girl or a little boy? And I feel like everybody wanted us to have a little girl just because of everything that happened. But we had a little boy, and I was kind of afraid that I was going to have a little boy. I was kind of like, I don't know, man. I was just kind of like, oh man, like what, and I feel like it was because I wanted to replace her.
Oh,
and so then I kind of grew with that, and even my mom was like, I think you're having a girl, and the way the belly and this, that, and the other. And everybody was like, oh, I think you guys are having a girl. And then we got our results, and it was like, oh, you guys having a boy? See, right there.
See right there, the thing.
Yeah. So, you know, I was okay. I was okay with it. I wasn't discouraged. I was just afraid that maybe I wasn't able to, you know, to appreciate it as much. But then once he was born, you know, it was one of them deals too where like it was special, you know, like I was in the room and everything kind of fell in place the way it should have. And, you know, and now, you know, like we're just, you know, now we're bonding and connecting with them. And so now I'm very, very happy we have a little boy. But it's just one of those deals too where like now it's just gonna, it gives us a fresh start, I guess, in a way.
Dude, that is gorgeous. That is beautiful.
It's kind of, you know, it's just.
So what's it like now running a pool business? Now, so what's the name of your pool business is Crone Customs?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it like running a pool business with an infant?
So it's been a struggle because my wife quit her job to help me with the office and with paperwork, invoice, and all that. And we build a pretty good team in the field, you know, with the guys and the workers and making it happen. But then the team that takes to run the operation, the internal operation behind closed doors, and you know what, pretty much, you know, like the guys is the engine, but without the starter, you know, that's just, you know, that engine is worthless. And then we just did not have the starter tuned up right, you know, or the timing, you know, so
it's off a bit.
Yeah, so it was off. And then I don't really enjoy office work or that type of work, and I have tendencies to not be interested or not. I struggle learning things I'm not interested in. You know, like I can I can probably you know, I probably can't connect to the Wi-Fi just because I'm not interested. But if I'm interested in you know, taking a motor apart and putting it back together, like I will do it just because I'm interested. But just, you know, and I'm just wired that way. So then my wife was very much alone doing everything that she was doing, and she had to learn everything by herself because she never ran a business before, and there was just so much to learn. So then she taught herself everything, and she's super smart, and she's a problem solver. So then, you know, and then she concentrated all of our struggles into something, and it was the business, and I did into the field. So then we started we just started putting pools in, man. Like, you know, I think like the first year we did maybe like 40 the first year. Wow. Installations or something like that. The second year I think we did like 80 installations. The following year we did 95. The following year, last year we did 88. I think this year we did like 90 installs.
But doing that during COVID too,
yes.
So that's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, I honestly, man, people talk about COVID. I don't know what COVID is. I'm being dead serious, you know. But people talk about COVID and a mask, and the only place that I ever wore a mask was Menards. Oh. Because Menards, it was the only place they enforced it. So I just didn't go to Menards. So I avoid Menards at all costs.
When I was remodeling my house at the time with my ex-wife, I was remodeling my house, and I walked in there, and the lady goes, "Put a mask on," and I was like, "No." Yeah. And she's like, "Put a mask on. You can only walk around with the mask." She didn't really sound like that, but in my head, she did. And I'm like, "I'm gonna go to Lowe's," and I ended up going to Home Depot because they didn't force you to wear a mask ever. That's where I went. All the time.
I would avoid Menards. But other than that, you know, if we went to the doctor, when Jen was pregnant, which it was really weird because it felt like the first time I went there, I felt like I was there. I was at a place where there were women that were beaten. You know, like when I walked in there.
A women's shelter.
Yes. When I went there to the hospital for the ultrasounds and everything that has to do with the process of your wife being pregnant and being a team effort, and then you play a role into the belly, into the ultrasound, and then all this and all that, they completely took that away from a man.
Really?
Like you were able to go there and then you were able to go in there whenever they did the ultrasound. Other than that, you didn't get to go in there. So then if I go there with her, like I see nothing but women around, and everyone had a mask on because you had to have a mask on. So then, and I'm not a fan of a mask, you know. So then, next thing you know, like so I go in there. It's our first appointment. So we're trying to find out whether she really is pregnant. To do the ultrasound, and she's pregnant. After that, I can go back. So then I was able to go back again. I think it was like the time. I can't remember how far in between, but I think I was only able to go into that room like 3 times the entire time she was pregnant. So then did they
just play the whole COVID card the entire time?
Yes.
Like, oh, we can only have one. It's stupid.
Yes.
There were so many dumb protocols that we had to have during this whole thing, even for where I work at. And the ambulance services and the hospitals, and trying to slow down on bringing more people into the hospital, and trying to slow down with the spread of it, and just the protocols that it had. It was better. What was better about it, for at least in my career field, was you weren't taking a lot of the dumb calls to the hospital to waste the hospital's time. Yeah. Because then there was protocols in place that, unless it was an extremely serious like injury or a serious call, that somebody was like, you have to go to the hospital. Other than that, we have people that stub their toes and say they want to go to the hospital. Like, we have the dumbest stuff. And I'm just like, you don't have a neighbor that can take you. You don't have anybody here, a friend, or you just call an Uber. But they're willing to spend the money, or have the government spend the money on all that stuff. But that was probably the better things of during COVID, I would say, at least on my end.
Wasted time.
It was because the taxpayers are saving money, because for one, you're not having these people get, abusing the system, that are getting taken to the hospital that really, they don't really need anything, or they're just a little dehydrated and they want to get taken in. They're complaining about it, and they say, oh, I have chest pain, and they go in. But it was good because it was slowing down on some of the runs for a lot of the BS stuff that they really don't need to take. But there was other things too, like with family members, like the husband, if the wife is seriously injured, it's like they can't ride in the ambulance because it's their protocol.
Yeah.
And it's not the ambulance driver's fault. It's not the medic or the EMT's fault. It's above them.
Yeah.
But they have to follow with it.
Yeah.
But that would be frustrating.
Yeah. It
kind of was very
was
frustrating.
But other than that, I didn't get a shot. Like my wife didn't get a shot. Like they kept saying, oh, you want to give the baby the flu shot or the COVID shot? No, we don't. And like I feel like like they asked us, like like after we said no, like we kept being asked the same question.
Yeah, they'll ask you all the time.
Yeah. So then, but other than that, like we were busy the whole time. We worked the entire time. I think when they first announced COVID, which I think it was like March, wasn't it? I think it was like a March of...
It was late February, early March.
Of 2020, wasn't it?
2020, yeah.
Yeah. So when that happened, I kind of got like a little scared, and I didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. So we stopped working for like a week, because I think we went to Florida and stayed at a friend's house over there, and we just wanted to be close to the ocean, because we just didn't know what was going on. Everybody made it seem like it was like a zombie apocalypse,
Yeah, they didn't know the end of the world was coming, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I get it for the first few weeks. You think that, and then afterwards you're like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, and then I just kind of like
not as bad as what they made it seem like.
So then we don't have cable, we don't have so we only have like Netflix and Prime and Hulu. Philo. I mean, my wife's got, I think we have like a bunch of different little accounts. And if not, we just share passwords with friends.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, so we don't have cable. We don't watch Fox News. We don't watch CNN. We don't watch anything. So we literally did not watch anything to do with like numbers or this or that. And everything that I heard about COVID was because other people talked about it. Mm-hmm. But and we were also going through, our own struggles. So we just kind of like blocked everything out of our lives. And the only thing that we were concentrated on was work. And so, I've never had COVID, knock on wood. My wife, we never, at least we've never been, never tested positive. So it was one of them deals, but COVID made a huge impact in the industry, at least in the pool industry, to where, people now, were working from home and, they weren't taking vacations and they weren't going places. So then all of a sudden, everybody wanted a pool, and then interest rates it started to, drop in, and, all of a sudden, the home equity loans or, lines, it started getting a little bigger and bigger and bigger because the house kept, going up in price. And so then the market kind of opened up, and everybody wanted a pool. It felt like everybody wanted a pool. So
that is like a blessing though, because like you guys,
Yes.
I watched you guys, I knew you before you started the business, and then just watching your business grow and seeing all the cool trucks that you got too.
Yeah,
and your trucks are always the coolest trucks too. Like they're big 2,500, Duramaxes, blacked out or all white.
At first it was like perception.
Yeah.
Like I've always kind of believed in that. Like sometimes it's what you see, and so then I kind of. And then it was kind of cool, and it was a deduction, and but it all started with we opened our business. I quit my job. I didn't have a truck. I didn't have a vehicle. My wife had a new Honda. We just bought a house, so I quit on Wednesday. We closed on the house on Thursday, and then the company that I work for pretty much stripped me out of everything on Friday. Because I was running a company for another guy, and he just neglected it, and I was making it run. And then I was like, oh man, like I'm affording his house, his trucks, his vacations, his everything. And then I was like, I'm just getting like a paycheck. I was like, I can do this by myself. So then that was kind of like my mentality. So then I didn't have a vehicle. So then I asked my wife, I was like, hey, look, I got to go talk to a couple guys that I'm trying to get to work for me. And this is on Friday, and I closed on the house on Thursday, and I didn't have a job.
That's scary.
I know. So then it was kind of reckless. So then, so I asked my wife, I was like, hey, can you do me a favor? Are you okay if we just have one vehicle? Or, your work is close enough to where you can Uber, or, maybe we'll figure it out. But we need a truck because we don't have a truck. And I had an enclosed trailer, which so I had a few tools. So then I asked my wife to go talk to Drew Pittman at Ray Skillman Hyundai. Yeah. And so then she, and I had a relationship with Drew, and I actually sold my first pool to Drew.
Really?
So I had that pool to do. So then my wife goes and talks to Drew, and her car was maybe like 2 months old. And then I was like, and she just graduated college, and she just got her dream job, and she's only been working there maybe for like 6 months or so. So then I was like, hey, can you go get us a vehicle, a truck? I need a truck. I just need a work truck. I don't care what it is. It just has to be a diesel, and we need a gooseneck, like hitch, and a 2,500, 3,500. We just need a truck, 4 doors. That way I can like carry some of the guys with me. So then she goes and talks to Drew, and Drew's like, the only one I have right now is a Denali. A black Denali.
Oh yeah, only the nicest one that we got.
Yeah, So my wife, she was like, "Fine, I'll take it." So she traded her. Ooh. She traded her car, and then I didn't even know what she was getting. So my daughter and her picked up the truck, and then she drove home in the truck. And then I got home at the end of the day, and there was a black Denali in my driveway. It wasn't. It was like I think it was like an 18. I think this was like year 19. Mm-hmm. So it was like a year old, and it was like my dream truck. I think everybody's dream truck at the time.
Yeah. I'd still love to have one right now.
So then, then I drove in on my company truck, which the guy I was scheduled to meet the owner at 5:00 because he was gonna come take it from me. Mm-hmm. Which I got it, it's whatever. I gave it up. So then I was like, "Who's here?" And she's like, "Hey, it's your new truck." And I was like, "Are you serious? Like you got a 2,500 Denali for my first truck?" And and I don't have a job. We just closed on our house yesterday. Like what did you do? Like this truck is so much money. Like we can't afford this truck. Like, and I was kind of upset, but I was happy at the same time.
Well, of course, I'd pretend to be upset too. Like,
yes.
I can't believe you would do this.
Yes.
Thank you so much for buying this truck.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful truck.
yeah, exactly. I swear to God, it was like the exact mentality because I just didn't know how to act. But then now I knew that I had to work so much more harder because now I have to pay for this truck, so then now I'm like, I can't, now this is another reason to like, hit the gas. So, so then, so we just survive of one truck. A friend of mine on the big company had all 4 parked and he really didn't use it. So I was like, hey, Jeff, we're only down to 1 vehicle. You care if I, can I buy your truck? He's like, nah, just take it. And,
Dude, that's cool.
Hey, whenever you can, just, help me out, pay me back, whatever you need. You've always been good to me, which I worked for him in the past too. And I to me, currency is not money. Currency is relationships, so to me, that's the currency, cool. So then money kind of just means to a way, but relationships is to me the true currency, so I try to keep the best relationships with, everybody the best I can and try to keep them, solid and, but, Jeff gave me that truck and so I gave that truck to Jen. So now Jen's driving like an old truck. But she was okay with it. She supported me 100%. On Sunday, I kind of got super overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't even know how to send an invoice. How do you do this? How do you work QuickBooks? And she was already kind of practicing a little bit, before I quit. So then she's like, oh, I can help you. And I was like, yeah, but I got this job and I'm trying to pick up this account. So then I was like, can you quit your job? And she's like, what? And I was like, can you please quit your job? And she's like, I just graduated. Like I bust my butt to like graduate early and to get what I, where I am today. And it took me 4 times to take this finals or the state finals or the state. I guess I can't remember the name of the test, but to take it because she was,
did she go for nursing or something?
Dental.
Oh, dental hygienist?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then she took the test like 4 times and she fell like 4 times and then the 5th time she passed it. But long story short, so then I asked her, please quit. Can you please quit? And she's like, do you really think that this is going to work out? Can I truly, truly trust you? And I was like, look, like I'm giving it my 100%. I was like, I'm not doing the 110 or the 90. I was like, I'm just, the true number. I was like, I'm going to put 100%, all of me into this. And she said, okay. Then if that's what you really going to do, then I will quit my job. I will put my 2 weeks in. And I was like, can you not put your 2 weeks in? And she's like, then that's going to burn my bridge. And I was like, yeah, but essentially, if you're going to quit, you're going to quit. So then she reached out to them and asked them if it was possible, and she did. She quit. And from that moment, we became stronger, as a business, because of her. So like I am where I am today because of her. Awesome. And that whole saying that, I can't remember what the saying is, but for it to be a great man, you have to, have a great woman.
Every strong man, you look behind him as an even stronger woman.
Yes,
to support that. Like there's another saying too. I really like it. I actually heard this from a Navy SEAL. I was talking to him about it, and he said the strongest men can be taken out by one person, and it's the woman he loves.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that is true.
That is nasty.
Like that is so
that
true.
is mean. So yeah, that is awesome, dude, that she was that supportive.
Yeah. So and then from that moment on, she committed, and then she gave her all. She learned every trick in the book, and I don't mean tricks. I just mean it because there's just so much to learn. Like how to put the contract together, how to do this and how to do that, and how to collect and how to So I was just running the construction department, and she was just running pretty much like the rest of it. And she got us here, through that time span. We became stronger as a business, but weaker as a couple. Ooh. Because we were dedicating so much time into working, and we started neglecting each other, and then, about 2 months later, Callee passed away. And so now we were both like, in this awkward situation, and but work saved us in a way, because it was just, I feel like if I would have been working for that company and she would have worked for that doctor, then we would have been weaker individuals, because we wouldn't have been in a mindset to where failure wasn't an option.
There was more at stake.
Yes.
With what you guys were going through.
So then, like the whole, God, like he won't give you like, something you can't handle. I think that the only reason why that's a true statement is because he'll put you through so many situations in life that will help you grow or become stronger by simply giving you different challenges, that will affect you in one way or another, but it will make you grow in ways that you don't know, because because they're not being exposed yet. But then whenever that bad moment, or that something goes wrong in your life, or something happens where it's gonna like truly break you, the breakup from this marriage, that it broke you and it tore you and it made you a hard, a hard person when it came down to like, like avoiding how to like, being, weakened by your feelings and your emotions, and, and you think it's like the worst thing that ever happened to you. And then you become so like, I guess so
jaded.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, this is much more, either worse or much more, better. But then without that breakup, you could have never loved this woman the way you love her now, because all this pain and suffering and, like struggle was what taught you how to like treat this new woman the right way. Ooh. So then, and I feel like that was some things that happened in our lives. And it was like, things that just happened, in our life that we just seen them, they just seem like so bad, or why me, or like, oh my God, are you real? Like, why are you doing this to us? And then it's like, but then it was like we were being prepared in a way. I feel like we were being prepared, and we were making all these irrational decisions in other people's eyes, just because if you was on the outside looking in, I mean, this guy's like crazy. Like, why would you sign on a house and you quit your job? Mm-hmm. And you did too. And, like, so I think that, we just kind of, in our own way, we like, we just had like an inside voice that it was like motivating us to make those decisions that just might seem irrational, but they were all for a purpose that we just didn't know. And then we had this like inside motivator that was like, encouraging to do this like crazy irrational decisions. But at the end of the day, it was just simply, like setting yourself up for failure so you could like face the failure, become stronger, and then face this. So I kind of feel like, sometimes, and maybe I'm just justifying or maybe just talking out loud, but sometimes I feel like, we kind of, went through the things that we went through, and maybe even it played a part, maybe even from 10 years back, all the bad things that happened, all the things that we like, feel like, oh, it should have never happened to me. But we were growing in ways that we had no idea. And we were becoming stronger in ways that we had no idea. Or maybe like, some things made us tougher, but we just didn't know it because we were feeling sorry for ourselves.
How were you? So it seems like you were raised with like a good head on your shoulders and by your parents that were pretty great. Or how was your childhood?
So I had a pretty normal childhood. So I grew up in Costa Rica. I went to a Catholic school. Believe it or not, I went to school from first grade to sixth grade, and I never went back.
What?
I swear.
So okay, so you were raised in Costa Rica at a Catholic school.
Yeah.
So was the main language there
Spanish?
Spanish.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Spanish.
no one spoke English at all.
Yeah, English is a huge part of Costa Rica because of tourism.
Okay.
You know, so then there's like, you know, a school.
And you stopped at 6th grade.
Yeah. So then when I moved here, I was like 14. Or
Why did you move
15. My dad, you know, so he started a few developments and he owned a construction company. And basically he got kind of like played because he was a guy from a different country, and he came here and started like making some investments, and you know, next thing you know, he got like pretty much manipulated and they screwed him, and next thing you know, they pretty much like took him for everything.
Oh wow.
Sort of deal. So then he was like, he reached out to his brother here, and then, you know, they're like, oh, you know, just move back and we'll find a way to make this work. So then we moved here. Then when we moved here, I didn't want to go to school. I had issues with my language, so I didn't really truly speak English. I knew how to say like this or that, but I just couldn't hold a conversation. And I guess there were insecurities. So then I kind of had this whole mindset about like, oh, maybe we'll wait. Maybe I'll work in my family's business because they own Crone Lumber in Martinsville. I was like, I'll just work at the mill, and then I just, you know, do this for about a year or two, and, you know, try to learn the language, and then I'll sign up for school, or, you know, I'll be the kid that's a couple grades behind. I don't care, whatever. And I just never looked back. I just, you know, and then I think it's kind of weird for my mom and my dad to kind of like be on board at that time, but they were. And I think it was because our lives just kind of got flipped upside down about all, like, you know, moving and the, you know, the whole culture shock because of the language, and, you know, going from like living in a city to like cornfields, and, you know, so it was different.
Wow.
And then we ended up at a farm that my uncle owned, and he let my dad have it at the time. And long story short, I just never went back to school. So one day, I think it was like 2015 or 16, 14 or 15, I can't remember. I decided I was going to take my GED. You know?
You're just going to go in and take it?
Yeah. So I did. Well. So I just went in and I took it and I passed it.
No way.
I swear. I swear. I passed them all. I barely passed the math test because there was just so much. There was algebra and just. But I passed it, you know. So I just.
That is awesome.
You know. So then next, you know. So now it's like, oh, you know, I got a high school education, and it stopped being a GED. So then I think now it's like high school equivalence, or high school diploma equivalence, or something like that.
Okay.
And so I did that, and you know, I just I wanted that peace of mind about like, you know, and it was like, oh man, I can't believe I like dropped out in 6th grade.
Dude, that is amazing.
So I did.
Man, we've been going for almost coming up on 2 hours now.
Oh man, sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine, dude. I thought it was great. We'll go ahead and just cut it off right here. Yeah. Man, everything you shared today, I am so honored that you shared it with me and the listeners and stuff, man. I think you did a fantastic job. I think they'll agree with it as well. Is there any parting words that you want to say before we finish? Or are you good?
No. I just want to say thank you, you know, and thank you for what you do.
I don't do anything.
You know, no, but I mean like your job.
Oh,
you know,
dude, I appreciate
and
that.
Your
it's brother
a fun job. And you, and that's what kind of makes America, you know, like stay in place. And teachers, you know, firefighters, policemen. I think teachers mainly, you know, don't have enough credit.
There's few that ruin it for a lot.
Yeah,
but there's a lot that are actually pretty good teachers.
But you know, it's just like, you know, like I just, you know, like from the bottom of my heart, you know, like thank you. I really do appreciate what you guys do. I think it's awesome, man.
We appreciate the support, man.
I really do.
These guys that are doing these jobs, these guys and gals that do firefighter, police, EMS, they just do it because they love it. Like it doesn't.
But it's honorable.
It could be, yeah, it
To
can
me,
be.
it's honorable,
It can be.
you know,
It
to
could be
put
honorable.
that
I think
much-
every job is honorable. I think what you do is honorable because what you do is here's how I explain it. Because like before, I used to talk with somebody, and I do appreciate like you being so thankful for it. It's actually pretty cool. But I equivalent everyone's jobs to being extremely important, and I'll explain yours. So let's say my job is really stressful. Oh man, I'm so stressed. What's going to help me relieve some stress? A pool. I want a pool in my backyard.
Yeah.
I go ahead and I call you Crone Customs. You guys come in. I'm like, I want an in-ground pool. I want a water slide. I want everything. I want everything. You put it in there for me. I get so stressed out at work instead of coming home and drinking my worries away and getting drunk. And then at some point in my life later on, I commit suicide because it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I just go back to my pool and I relax because Crone Customs put that pool in.
Yeah.
Because you put that pool in. You took away a lot of that stress for
That's
me.
a good way to put it.
That's another way of putting it.
Yeah.
And that's, dude, I think everyone has that job. When you go into a supermarket, the people that are loading all the food up in there, I'm like, hey, thanks for doing what you do. They're like, it's what? I'm a 16-year-old kid. Like,
Yeah.
because when I come in here, I don't like being out. I don't like being around people. So when I walk in there, I'm like, I want to get my shit. I want to go.
Yeah.
And then you put it there every single time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, because I don't want to do the self-pay.
I
I just want to get in line. I want you to scan everything, put it in the bag, and I just...
and then get out of
Yeah.
here and get done, dude. But no, I really appreciate that. And
Yeah, thanks for having me,
what
man.
what you do is awesome. It's really motivated me to try to push forward towards my small business. I do lawn care, but it's like
Yeah.
listening to your story. It's like I could do this. Like
It's
I just
possible.
I just have to take that chance. And I think
Yeah.
anybody else who's listening to this just has to take
I
that
think
chance.
the key is you have to commit 100%. You know, it's like there's just no room for 80 or 90 or 99. I think 100 is the right number, because it's kind of like when you talk to David Bowers. You know, it's every meal counts, every calorie counts. Like it's like you're committed 100%. You know, it's like, and if you're really that committed, there's not really a cheat day. But you know, you can allow yourself a cheat day. But you know, that commitment is what keeps you, or what gives you the formula. You know, and then it's like, you know, it's kind of like if you're cooking spaghetti. You know, you have a recipe. So then if you follow the recipe, you end up with the same spaghetti the grandma used to cook. But if you don't follow the recipe and you start adding your touch, you might end up with the spaghetti, you know, but you won't end up with grandma's spaghetti. You'll end up with a different spaghetti. So to me, I just kind of been, you know, focusing on on what the recipe is. And I just kind of found out that, you know, delegating is one of the main ones, you know, because once you start getting people in your life, then you have to learn to delegate, for jobs to get done, and, learn how to tell people what to do, and learn how to run a crew of individuals, so something can be done without you being there. But I will have to give you my all, my 100%, and I think, my wife doing the same thing is the one thing that kind of just, allowed us that, where she put a 50 and I put a 50. So then, my 50 might be my 100%, but into the equation, it has to be that 100%. And for order to be, for it to get the results for the recipe, each individual has to put in that much, and I think it kind of goes back to a marriage, if you invest the same time and effort, time and commitment into a marriage, then, you get the right outcome, and you get the right, and you may not invest that much and you might still have the marriage, but are you happy? Are you successful? Is it the marriage you want? Are you comfortable but not happy? So I think on the business, it's kind of like the same. And don't get me wrong, it's hard to I think that's why I have, put working out in the back burner, and I have neglected this and that and hobbies, and just because, trying to give that 100%, and I'm hoping that one day I get to a point to where I put so many people in the right place to where everybody has that 10% in, so then I just kind of pitch in my 10, and then it makes that 100, and then everything, continues to run the exact same way. But until then, I have to give in my 50 or however much my percentage is into the situation. But at first, you know, you just have to commit. You just have to, like, you know, like, there's all in, no plan B. You know, like, that's something that no plan
That's
B.
scary.
You know, like, I feel
No
like once
plan
you
B.
have a plan B, you're already considering failing. You know, you're already in the, you know, somewhere into that equation, there's already a percentage of, well, this is what I'll do if I fail. You know, so then I'm going to try to, like, you know, so then instead of, like, me having a plan B, I just trying to look for different alternatives, you know, different, you know, something else that can, like, you know, either produce a profit or, and sometimes it's not even about profit. Sometimes just, you know, maybe just about joy, you know, but, you know, and then back, I think that it, you know, having, you know, the right people in the right place, you know, that's, like, you know, super important, you know, whether sometimes that person brings you back $1 or that person just brings you back a smile, you know, that part that person plays into your life, whether it's for that dollar or that smile, it's got to be just as important, you know, because it may, you know, not mean much to them, but, you know, to me, it's like, you know, it means the world. And, you know, as you move along, you know, for people that are trying to start their own business, and it's just hard, you know, it's not gonna be easy.
Do you think you coming from another country, coming to America, made it more towards you were more motivated to run your own business? Or have that aggression towards doing it?
Yeah, I always kind of been aggressive towards everything, you know. So, like,
Do you think that's your culture from Costa Rica?
I don't know. I think it's more in me. Like for instance, like if I'm already thinking about this. So I've been thinking, oh, like January 1st, I'm back at the gym. I really want to do this. So, like, you know, like, so when I have that mentality, it's like, you know, like, I'm already thinking, like, okay, by May 3rd, I gotta be at 216, you know, 12%. Oh. You know, so then it's like, you know, and I feel like that's why it's so hard for me to get back into the gym, because I can't just go to the gym and just kind of like go to the gym. You know, like when, like, I'm trying to go to the gym because I'm not trying to compete, but I wanna relate to the guys that are competing. You know, like, I want to look at myself in the mirror, or I want to cross paths with, you know, guys in the locker room, and I'd be like, damn, he looks good, but I don't look too bad, you know. You know, so
I can relate to that part, man.
Yeah, you know,
I can relate to that part. Going to the gym and lifting extremely hard. I mean, obviously, I've lost a little bit of size. I've lost some weight, though. I've been doing the jujitsu.
Yeah.
Earlier, back in the beginning of this talk, I meant to bring up doing jujitsu has really helped with a lot of my, like, anxiety and stress and depressive thoughts and shit like that. Like, doing jujitsu, like, focusing on trying to breathe when someone's trying to choke you out the entire time is, like, you have one thing to focus on, and it's don't get folded and don't die.
Yeah.
Like, and it's really helped. It's really helped me, and it's like, it's better than any medication or any other thing that I could do. The bodybuilding stuff, man, that is all the time what you're thinking about. When is my next meal?
Yeah.
I got to eat in 3.5 hours. I got to have this many carbs. I have to have this many fats. I have to have this much protein. I can't have any of these sugars. I have to have this. I got to work out, and I have to burn this many calories. I have to lift this hard. This is my goal weight. Like, it's so much.
It becomes its own monster.
It is exactly its own monster.
Yeah.
Man, I hope to have you on again at any point. I've really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing your life with me and my viewers, dude. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.